Something deeply disturbing has come to light in Britain, a case that raises serious questions about our institutions, about public safety, and about how warnings are ignored until it's too late. A troubled teenager, already on the radar of police, schools, and mental health services, was allowed to slip through the cracks again and again. What followed would become one of the darkest moments in recent years, a tragedy that has left families shattered, communities in shock, and the nation demanding answers. Let's break it down, but first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. The inquiry into the Southport killings has already laid bare some shocking truths, and what we're learning is enough to shake public confidence in Britain's ability to protect its people. At the centre of it all is 17-year-old Axel Rudekubener, who carried out one of the worst knife attacks in modern British history. 3 young girls, full of life and with their whole futures ahead of them, were murdered. Several others were seriously injured. It was an attack that stunned the country, not only because of its sheer brutality, but because it happened in a place most parents would assume their children were safe. A Taylor Swift-themed holiday club in Southport. But here's where it becomes unbearable. We now know that just 6 days before the murders, Rudekubener was discharged from child and adolescent mental health services. 6 days. Specialists carried out a risk assessment on him on the 23rd of July, less than a week before he struck. And yet that assessment, the third such review in 4 years, has never been made public. We are told it exists, but the findings have not been disclosed. Why? That single question hangs over the entire inquiry. What did professionals see, or fail to see, in those final days? How could a young man with a known obsession with knives, with a documented history of violence, and with repeated referrals to prevent be deemed fit to simply walk away from the system that was supposed to contain him? His older brother Dion Rudekubener has broken his silence for the first time. In a statement, he described the immense pain, anguish, and grief suffered by the victims and their families. He admitted his younger brother had become increasingly isolated after being expelled from school at the age of 13 for carrying a knife and attacking another pupil. That was back in 2019. From that point on, Axel began to spiral, cut off from his peers, hostile to authority, and slipping further into darkness. Now, Dion himself is a student at Warwick University, living with a disability and focusing on his studies. He said he had limited interaction with Axel in the years before the killings, but even from a distance he could see his younger brother withdrawing. And he has now called on the inquiry, led by retired Judge Sir Adrian Fulford, to examine whether more could and should have been done by the state to stop the killings. That is the key issue here, the missed opportunities. Axel wasn't some mystery case. He was known, he was flagged, he was on the radar. He was referred to the Prevent Counter-Radicalisation scheme 3 times. Nothing came of it. His teachers raised safeguarding concerns after he made disturbing comments about the Holocaust and Jewish people. Again, nothing followed. In March 2022, he was found with a knife on a bus after telling police he wanted to kill someone and had made poison. And yet, that information wasn't even shared with his family support worker. How does that happen? How does someone who openly threatens to kill, who is caught armed with a knife, still slip through the cracks of every agency supposedly watching him? The failures didn't stop there. The inquiry has been told his parents were not only unhelpful, but at times obstructive. Professionals described Axel's father as hostile during consultations, while his mother and father were accused of failing to properly supervise or support him. Axel himself disclosed aggression and emotional abuse at home. Social workers saw worrying behaviour, but no sustained intervention followed. And yet, despite this long trail of red flags, Axel was discharged from services in July 2023. 6 days later, 3 young girls were dead. But there is an even darker layer to this story, because the inquiry has now heard that Rudekubener was found with a picture of Jihadi John, Islamic State's most notorious executioner, saved on his tablet. Jihadi John, the British-born Islamist who beheaded hostages in Syria on camera, whose name became synonymous with terrorism. Axel had his image stored. This is not speculation. This is not hearsay. It is evidence of Islamist radicalization right there on his device. And yet, even now, the authorities are downplaying the motive. They continue to frame this as a story about mental health, about isolation, about family breakdown. Yes, those factors played a part, but to pretend this wasn't also about ideology, about extremist influence, is dishonest. How many more times do we have to see the same pattern? A young man already obsessed with violence, flagged for dangerous behavior, repeatedly referred to prevent, and in possession of extremist material. And then, when the worst happens, the establishment rushes to explain it away as a failure of services, or a tragedy of mental health. The truth is clear, this was a preventable atrocity. The warning signs were flashing in neon lights and they were ignored, again and again. Now the inquiry will run until November, with a report to government expected afterwards. But here's the uncomfortable reality. We've heard this story before. After every terror attack, every mass stabbing, every lone wolf case, we are promised lessons will be learned. We are told there will be reform, but little ever changes. Meanwhile, families are left destroyed, children are buried, communities are traumatized, and the same authorities that missed opportunity after opportunity to stop these killers quietly move on. This case, perhaps more than any in recent memory, demands honesty. It demands that politicians, police, and mental health services stop hiding behind bureaucratic excuses and start admitting the truth. Britain has a radicalization problem, a knife crime problem, and a political class too timid to confront either. 3 little girls should still be alive today. Their families should never have had to bury them. And Britain should not be in a position where yet another preventable massacre is brushed aside as an unfortunate one-off. So the question we must ask is this: how many more warnings, how many more missed chances, how many more lives lost before the government finally admits the truth? In other news, Jeremy Corbyn has arrived at the anti-Trump protests in London and has told the media that there is no reason for the American president's state visit. Speaking to the media, the leader of your party said, "Well, it's an unusual ever second state visit for the same person. Very strange." And he's not actually meeting anybody on this trip. He's just a choreographed visit for the benefit of American television. We're showing us a few people here that would like to tell him something different. Asked why he attended the protests, he said, "It's to show that there's an alternative to economic division, social division, and the rise of racism in our society." Thousands of demonstrators swarmed on Parliament Square this afternoon as demonstrators staged a rally against Donald Trump's second state visit to Britain. The march, organized by the Stop Trump Coalition, a network of more than 50 trade unions and activist groups, set off from Portland Place before making its way through central London towards Whitehall. Chants of "No to Trump" rang out as protesters waved placards attacking the former US president, while others carried anti-Israel slogans and banners accusing Mr. Trump of racism. Smaller replicas of the notorious 20-foot Trump baby blimp, first flown during his 2019 visit, were also spotted among the crowds. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.